Anybody inside? The voice came through the storm, deep, calm, and certain, even as thunder rolled across the hills. Mary Lou froze. Her hands trembled as she held the latch of the cabin door. For a long moment, she heard only the pounding rain and her own heart. Then the voice came again, steadier this time. "Ma'am, you safe in there?" She hesitated, then pulled the door open just enough to see him. A tall man stood outside, rain dripping from the brim of his hat, his coat dark and heavy with water. Lightning flashed behind him, turning the wet world white for an instant before fading back into gray. I was just passing through," she stammered. He nodded once. "Name's Eli Carter, sheriff out of Dry Hill. Found a busted wagon back yonder on the ridge." "Yours?" Mary Lou swallowed hard. "Yes, well, broke. My horse ran off. I didn't know where else to go." "Then you did right coming here," he said. "Storm will tear the skin off the land tonight. You'll freeze if you stay out." He stepped inside without waiting for an answer, closing the door behind him, the room filled with the smell of wet leather and pine smoke. The fire in the hearth flickered weakly, throwing orange light across the cabin walls. Mary Lou stood back, watching him remove his hat and hang up his soaked coat. He was about 35, rough-featured but kind-eyed, a man used to long rides and little rest. "I don't mean to trouble you, Sheriff," she murmured. "No trouble," he said simply, pulling a chair toward the fire. "Ain't no law against staying alive in bad weather." For a moment neither spoke. The wind screamed outside, rattling the shutters. Then, in a small, almost trembling voice, Mary Lou whispered, "I don't want to be alone tonight." Eli looked up slowly. The firelight caught the faint scar that ran down his cheek, a reminder of the kind of man who'd seen his share of rough days. But his gaze was steady, not questioning, not unkind. He stood, walked to the cabin door, and slid the heavy iron bolt across. Not out of want, out of promise. The sound of metal against it echoed softly, and the cabin felt suddenly safer, warmer. He turned back toward her, his voice low but sure. "Then you won't be." He took a wool blanket from a trunk near the wall and set it around her shoulders. "Storm will pass by morning," he said, settling down again by the fire. "You just rest easy." She nodded faintly, but her eyes were still glassy with tears. "It's been a long time since anyone said that to me." Eli gave a quiet hum. "You've had a hard trail, I reckon." "My folks passed in the spring," she said. "Try to make it east, find work, maybe a place to belong." "Well," he said after a moment, "you belong safe. That's start enough." He reached over and picked up an old guitar leaning in the corner. It was scuffed, the strings worn thin. He plucked a few notes, testing the sound, then began to play, slow and soft, a tune that carried both sorrow and comfort. Mary Lou listened. The sound filled the cabin like warm air. She closed her eyes, feeling her breath steady for the first time in days. When the song ended, she smiled faintly. "That was pretty." "Wasn't much," he said with a shrug. "Just something my ma used to hum when storms got mean." "I think I needed to hear it," she whispered. He nodded, gaze still fixed on the flames. "We all need a little peace now and then." The storm raged outside, but inside the cabin, a strange calm settled. The kind born from two souls who'd both seen too much of the world and found, at least for one night, someone who understood. "Tomorrow," Eli said quietly, "I'll take you to town. School's looking for a teacher. You've got the eyes of someone who could teach a soul or two." She chuckled softly. "And you got the voice of someone who never lost faith." He smiled barely. "Maybe not yet." Hours passed. The rain slowed to a whisper. Mary Lou drifted into sleep by the fire while Eli kept watch, feeding the flames now and then, the guitar resting across his knees. Every so often, he glanced toward her, the way her face softened in rest, the way peace finally settled there. When dawn broke, the storm was gone. The prairie lay clean and shining, mist rising from the hills. Eli saddled his horse while Mary Lou stood at the doorway, wrapped in his coat, looking out into the bright new morning. He handed her a cup of coffee and smiled. "Town's a few miles east. We'll be there by noon." She looked at him, her eyes warmer now. "Then let's ride, Sheriff." He tipped his hat. Eli'll do just fine. They rode side by side across the open land, sunlight spilling over the wet grass. The skies stretched wide and endless, the world washed clean. Neither of them spoke much. They didn't need to. The storm that brought them together had left something behind. The quiet promise of company, of trust, of new beginnings. And as they rode toward Dry Hill, two shadows moved as one. A lost girl and a weary lawman, bound not by duty or chance, but by the simple truth that neither would ever be alone again.